Well, a lot of things going on, man. Some things I do want to ask you. I'll save the EV questions that I have coming up on the other side.
Okay.
But as far as the energy update, and Perez was talking about his bill a few minutes ago, he'd like to have that continuous. What was it, Perez? The total bill for this month?
$6.94.
Really? So he'd like to have that for the rest of the year.
He got his $80 credit back, right? Yeah, he likes that.
And
That's right.
I told him, Haley, don't be expecting this every month now. But
it was
explain
so nice.
Exactly what's going on.
It was so nice to write that particular check.
Well, we appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
Paul, I can't help but think where we first got to know each other 14 years ago, I was having to get in here and talk about high natural gas prices. I've been in this job a long time, and I just had a flashback because back then customers were getting hit with very high bills because of natural gas prices. And one lesson we learned from that is we didn't get out there soon enough to let customers know. And so our fuel adjustment, the dollars that we spend on the fuel to generate electricity, and our largest part of that, over almost 60% of our electricity comes from burning natural gas. We adjust that about every year. So we have been accruing very high natural gas costs all summer. It's been driven by high usage because of the hot summer we've had and continue to have today. And also we're seeing high natural gas prices. And what caught us all off guard was the impact of the Ukrainian-Russian crisis on natural gas prices, and we're seeing record high. Not quite what you and I saw in 2008, but we're paying $9, almost 300% increase in 2 years.
Has that been mitigated at all since the start of that conflict, or is it still like that?
And it's still like that, and the concern, we were this weekend, I read article after article talking about the concern about the high natural gas prices. They're going to continue through the summer into next year. So because of that, we're trying to get out and educate customers. We also just announced a $3.2 million customer assistance program, largest in our company's history. And it's targeted to help customers in a number of ways with bill assistance programs. We're also, for the first time, making dollars available to those customers who don't qualify for the federal assistance programs, LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program.
So are you telling us that if we have a really, really cold winter, we may see some pretty nasty bills?
Yes. More of the United States use natural gas for heating as well in the northern parts of the country, and here, it's the dominant. 40% of the electricity in the United States comes from natural gas now.
Haley, how's regulations play into that from this administration?
Well, Paul, whenever you're dealing with a supply and demand, basic economics has driven to that. We are seeing production starting to come back, and so in the summer months, we start to see natural gas prices forecasts drop back off. But even then, it's showing about $5 or $6 natural gas. Right now, we're at $9. We think that's going to stay through the summer. But just over a year ago, I was paying $3 an MMBTU for natural gas. So it's been a significant impact on our costs. So anytime you do any policies that impact supply, it's going to impact the other side of the equation. This
narrative of bringing nuclear back in, and I've read a couple of stories over the last 2 or 3 weeks, where more and more people are saying, nuclear, we need to be embracing that more, not less, because it's safe, it's energy efficient, and et cetera, et cetera. And is that narrative increasing a little bit, at least a few decibels on that?
Yes, it is. Good news in that. One reason we're today I'm talking about the assistance program, and that addresses the demand side, but we have to work to address the supply side. And so we're investing in Grand Gulf to make that plant run longer and make it more available to our customers. But yes, in the most recent passed Investment Infrastructure Job Act, there are dollars available to help license new technologies in nuclear reactors. And so Entergy, we have announced a partnership with Holtec, who is submitting a license to the NRC for a new small modular reactor design. Now, this is not a binding agreement, but we have basically shown our interest should this technology take off and if it's economic for our customers. But yes, the good news is with more and more renewables being deployed, We're glad to see people are waking up. You still got to have cranking power on the grid to back it up. And nuclear power does not emit greenhouse gases. It's a proven technology. So what you're seeing is incentives around new technology and a lot of discussions about extending the life of the current reactors in the United States.
You're a guy who spent some time in Washington, D.C. in politics.
Yes.
So you'll appreciate this. You remember a guy named Larry Summers?
Yes.
He was the energy guy from Secretary under Barack Obama, wasn't he?
I believe so.
And Joe Biden.
And I think he held other hats, too, in previous administration. Yeah.
You'll appreciate him. He's on the tube talking the other day.
It's kind of insane that we have trucks and trains carrying oil all over this country rather than constructing pipelines, which would permit accessing more resources, cheaper, safer transmission.
You know something we're using a lot more than natural gas is the word insane.
Yeah.
and rightfully so. I mean, because the insanity is out there. Larry Summers, Obama-Biden administration, saying that this is insane. But he's not helping things at all as far as this administration.
Well, Haley Barbour put it best when it came to energy policy. We need it all on the table.
Yes.
And that led to the forming of the Mississippi Energy Institute that we have today that really is there to drive the policies because it is a direct impact on the economic impact of our state. It's key to bringing jobs, having low-cost energy, but we got to have a diverse supply. So we're having to look at everything. And with natural gas really being our only option, we're having to look at renewables too and deploying solar. There's a lot more interest. The technology's gotten better, but it can't be solar alone. It's got to be other sources on the grid too to meet those needs.
What percentage of this problem and shortage? We understand the percentage. There's a large percentage from people using it, but what percentage is that? Is the causation coming from this conflict? I mean, how much do we get out of Russia?
Well, it's not that what we're getting out of Russia. It's that Russia is pulling back its supply to Europe. And a lot of European countries, the European Union, became dependent on Russian gas. So one of the benefits is we're seeing a larger export of liquefied natural gas, LNG, from the United States to Europe, which is good for those coastal areas and that economy. But the bad part of it is when you're pulling on the U.S. supply and impacting the demand, it's driving our cost up. So
in other words, we're shipping some over there and it's making the shortage here.
That's right. That's right. It's driving the demand up here. Now, we're seeing production respond and coming back to meet these demands. But in the meantime, it's impacting the United States, not just our customers here in Entergy, Mississippi, but across the United States.
Just wondering, because it was very interesting, you were talking about that new technology as far as nuclear is concerned. How far out is that?
Well, they've got to file license for the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. That's a process that could take 2 or 3 years. Paul, it's probably a decade out. Yeah. I mean, we haven't built these reactors. By the time you get them licensed, develop the process to build these and operate them.
You don't even have any land or anything like that, or would you put it in the same place?
Well, that's the one thing about these new small modular reactors. They're not like Grand Gulf. Grand Gulf is the largest single unit nuclear plant in the United States. It's nearly 1,500 megawatts. SMRs are built on smaller pods. Each one's about 160 megawatts, give or take. Each designs vary, and you can put anywhere from 2 to 4 pods at a site. And they're safer, they're passive safety systems, and so you can locate those closer to loads versus like current plants. But yes, Grand Gulf could be a site for one. Any sites along the Mississippi River we would consider for those particular sites.
When do you think we will see the spike or the cost start going up from this? Next bills?
So we're working with the commission right now. Chairman Maxwell has really challenged us to find a way to phase this in so we don't create too much sticker shock. So we're working with the commission right that, and hopefully I'll have some details on that in the coming weeks.
Of course, it's going to affect heating and cooling.
That's right. That's right. And so if we could phase it in during the months going in low, it won't have as great of an impact or shock. It's still going to be an impact when we go into next summer.
In other words, your visit here is to get ahead of the situation.
That's right. Lessons learned from 14 years ago, battle scars.
It took us 14 years to figure this out, didn't it? Okay, we'll talk more about it. Also, I want to ask you about EVs. If 75% of Mississippians were charging tonight, when they got home, what would it look like as far as Entergy is concerned? We'll talk about that with Haley Fisackerly when we return. Coming up next. FDIC and live from the Trustmark Studios. It is the one and only Haley Fisackerly sitting in the big chair, President, CEO, Entergy Mississippi, trying to let us know that our bills are going to be. So that money that we got back, we probably need to kind of pare that out and save it a little bit.
Well, and Paul, I thank you for bringing that up. The $80 credit that customers received this month was a part of a settlement we reached with the Mississippi Public Service Commission over the rates on Grand Gulf that are handled at FERC. So customers got $80 back this in a bill credit, and some requested checks. Those checks will be issued before the end of the month, those that requested it in the check. And then the commission also ordered a $15 reduction in bills starting next year to go against these fuel costs. So that's $200 million that's going to and reduce the average customer bill $15 a month the next month. But our problem is, because it keeps mounting at about $40 to $50 million a month in fuel costs, it keeps growing. And so we've got to address the other side of the equation going forward. So it's a frustrating problem.
We talk about the individuals, but the individuals get hit more ways than one, like the opening on that inflation.
That's right.
Is because businesses have to have that energy to produce whatever they're producing, from billing, administration to production, keeping the lights on. Everything requires energy from Entergy. So that most of the time is just passed on to the customers and product and
Paul,
services.
That's right. One thing we're doing, yes, we're providing some billing assistance to our most vulnerable customers, to some of the agencies that help administer programs. We're driving awareness. The federal government makes funds available to this low-income home energy assistance program. 300,000 Mississippians qualify for that program, yet less than 40,000 actually use it. So we're going to drive an awareness program to educate these people how to apply for those dollars, because if the Mississippi gets them, you don't use them, you lose them. And then the final thing, we are putting out energy efficiency kits that educate homeowners on how you can take steps today that could reduce your electric bill next year by as much as $300 over the course of the year if you follow these LED light bulbs, energy saver strips, and other educational materials we're making through an energy efficiency kit.
It was amazing because, and I thought about you, and I thought, I don't know if that worked in Mississippi, but in California, where they were controlling the energy company, I think, was it Excel? Well, I forget what it was, controlling the thermostats of some of their customers. I don't know if that would work in Mississippi.
Those are demand-side management programs that are available to customers today, but we do it differently. We let customers choose if they want it.
A good idea.
Yeah. So, and we have about 3,000 customers who participate in a similar program here in Mississippi, but it's a optional program for those that want to participate in demand-side management.
Well, the new technology is incredible. We had the CEO on from Beau Rivage the other day from MGM, and he just kind of threw this out. He said in the $100 million that they refurbished the Beau Rivage, the rooms and everything else, the technology was updated also to the point where when you check in, as soon as you get into the elevator, there is a connection there that the card you have automatically turns on the air conditioner in your room before it gets there.
Yep.
That is a tremendous savings. And at the end of the day, when you get in there, the air's on, and it only takes a few seconds for it to get up to speed. So it's amazing. And I know you guys have utilized that also.
Well, and that's energy efficiency technology. There's lots of materials out there that can make customers become smarter users of energy. Still have the comforts that you want, but be a little smarter. The Wi-Fi-enabled thermostats you can put in your home today give you a lot of control through this phone that you carry, and you could have a lot more control on your bill.
Let me ask you this. If we had 50 to 75% of the people out there charging their cars tonight in neighborhoods all across the Entergy customer base, what would happen?
Well, it put huge demand on our grid, and so we wouldn't be ready for it tomorrow, but we are preparing for it today. We have teams that are looking at what policies. We have a filing at the Mississippi Public Service Commission to start talking about when these companies that come in that want to build the superchargers, how do they interconnect? What are the costs are? What are the tariffs they charge customers to that? We are also looking at, do we deploy some of these in the public area? We need to start understanding today its impact before it shows up. And so the Commission is holding a workshop next week to start having discussions to educate themselves and others about this. So a lot of that. We have teams. We have an innovation group that's focused on fleet electrification, public electrification, home electrification. All of these things are being looked at. But, anytime you attach to the grid, if you put something onto the grid, it impacts the grid.
Yeah.
And
here is something I do not understand, and I mentioned the other day. It's nothing against an energy company or any administration, but it seems like when we had diesel available or ethanol available, and ethanol was a big deal back then. It was going to do this, it was going to do that, it was going to save us all from going to hell in a handbasket as far as using up all the fossil fuels, et cetera, et cetera. But we didn't go out as a government and put up ethanol stations out there or gas pumps. Why is the government in charge of doing of taxpayers putting up these charging stations? Why isn't it the energy companies across the country? Because where are they going to get that energy that they are going to sell from there?
Well, I think why you're seeing the government doing it, because you're going to see a lot of these vehicles start to roll out in the next couple of years. The Nissan facility here north of us is going to roll 2 EVs out in 2025. And so because there has not been policies to drive that. So the electric utility industry is working hard. We're in a consortium with our peers across the United States that are focusing on how we approach this. We're all working with our public service commissions through making various filings to start the discussions and all of that, but it's coming quickly, so they're having to get involved and do that. But if you look at any disruptive technology that comes in, the government usually has to step in with regulations or some sort of support to do it. You have, to kick off new technologies.
But if that charging station happens to be within the confines of where your customer base is, they're going to be getting that power from Entergy.
That's right. And there are 3 classes of chargers. You have a class 1 that uses a typical 110 volt, and that would take a few days to charge up a typical car. And a class 2 is a 240 volt. Think about how you plug in your dryer on a 240 volt. When you buy a car, you'll have a charger that comes with it. You can put it in your garage or in your driveway. You'll have to get a 240 volt put in. That'll charge the average car overnight. 4 to 6 hours. Mm-hmm. But the ones you're talking about, the superchargers, they go out on the highway, and that's where you see a lot of the incentives. These are what we call Class 3 chargers. They work off 480 kV charging, and those pull a lot of power on the grid. So the utilities is not only about supplying it, but we've got to be working with these suppliers coming in and putting these. Where's the best place to put these? Where can the grid accept it? Or if you're going to put it here, then we've got to make investments to be able to support it. And we got to work with our commission so that our customers are not harmed.
Would those be allowed, or could they be connected to residential areas?
The 480?
Residential homes?
Not really.
Supercommuter.
Not really. I guess you could. That would be very costly where you're bringing in 3-phase service and things of that nature. But the typical home will be fine with a Class 2. You come home at the end of the day, you plug it in.
I understand.
And you
but if everybody in the neighborhood's doing that at the same time.
That's right. I was talking to Don Miners, who was a former president CEO of Entergy Mississippi and MP&L, and he was reminding me of, this kind of feels like a lot when the air conditioners were created. And how our business had to change real quick to be able to have supply to go in a neighborhood. It'll be similar to that. But we've got to get ahead of these policies, because the concern I have, look, manufacturers are making these. They're coming. And so I worry about the rural areas. These big companies that want to get in that business, they're going to focus on the high volume, the high density areas. If we're not careful, we're going to end up with another rural broadband challenge if we don't have the policies to focus on where it needs to be done wisely.
We've got a final segment, and I want to ask you this. Have you guys set a pay scale, what it would charge, what it would cost to charge? And another thing, too, I know why it's got to be kind of difficult, because I mean, you can't travel to another state and find out what they're doing because everybody's in the formation of this at the same time. There's no schematic to go by. Final segment with Haley Fisackerly, President and CEO, Entergy, coming up in just a moment.
That is true.
Back live, final segment here with Haley Fisackerly, President and CEO, Entergy, Mississippi. Always try to take care of our folks on the C Spire text line. Curtis's energy bill is apparently, since he's got the automatic meter, something's gone squirrely. He's getting 3 or 4 bills a month, all with different prices, and there's a glitch in it somewhere, and he's trying to find somebody to talk to. I've sent you his number. If you'll just give that to the proper person, Curtis, you'll be taken care of.
Curtis, you will get this taken care of today.
Just the final segment. I forgot what we were going to talk about. I asked you a question, and now I need to write these things down before we get to the break. But your final thoughts on this whole thing as far as the increase in prices?
Well, Paul, we appreciate you allowing us to come and talk to our customers. You know, we're frustrated like you. Everything's been up. In the grocery store, inflation is driving it, all goods and supplies, and we're seeing it in our business. We do not profit off of natural gas. We're responsible for nearly 60% of the electricity we generate, and we've been accruing these dollars through the year as the unexpected rise, mainly due to the Ukrainian crisis. But the program we're rolling out is really to try to educate, inform, and also help customers. One thing that's different, you know, there are customers who don't qualify for the federal assistance programs, and they're working hard every day to make ends meet. We're making dollars available there to help them as well, and we'll be rolling those details out in the coming weeks and how you can apply for this assistance program.
The question that I had, and I remembered it now, the question was, have you set a pay scale, or do we have any idea what the price is going to be to charge, let's just say, a Toyota Camry, just a regular car? Do we have any idea what the cost is going to be?
So, Paul, that's the purpose of the filings we have at the Public Service Commission right now. One is we got to get these in the ground and start to understand how they operate and impact. 2, what should the rate be? So we agree that whatever the rate is, so if the kilowatt hour charge when you go to charge up will be at a premium, right? And whatever's collected will net against the cost, so it doesn't impact those customers who are not using electric vehicles. So, for example, I think the proposal we have at the Commission, residential rates right now around 11 cents a kilowatt hour. You would see a charge at one of these charging stations be probably 3 times that, around 30 cents or more a kilowatt hour. And that is to help pay for the charger itself. And then as we learn from this, and as more and more cars get onto the highways, we'll be working with the Commission about what does that look like going forward. What role will private companies play in charging? What role will utilities play? We've got interest right now from 2 municipalities to come in and put some public charging in right now because they're interested in learning and knowing how to address these challenges coming.
You hear so much. I capture this audio, and there's got to be a story behind this one. But hear this.
The Audi dealership fast charger that we're at, the only fast charger in the entire town. The most expensive one we've hit to date, $25 an hour.
The car has been charging overnight 10 hours, and it's only moved up about 20%.
The car's been charging for 10 hours.
Well,
it's up 20%. It's $25 an hour. His bill on charging is already at $250.
Well, look, and we're here in Mississippi, and we have some of the lowest rates in the country. So you go to California and places, we're 11 cents a kilowatt hour. Residential rates in California are north of 30 cents a kilowatt hour. So, there's going to be different impacts of that. That last one was probably using the 110 charger that's going to take all night. One thing that Congress is going to have to do is we're going to have to get standards out there. Everybody's got a different shape charger. We're going to have standards out there, what this looks like.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
They're different ones. Right now when you pull into a gas station, you have one nozzle that fits, they may be different between diesel and unleaded and regular, but they're standards, right? So
are you saying that the receptacles in each vehicle is not standardized?
There are some that are starting to get standardized. So if you look at a typical panel, you'll open that panel and you may see 3 different type of chargers. But Tesla has theirs.
Yeah.
Ford is going to have their design, Mitsubishi, different ones like that. So we've got to get to a standardized. Now, they have adapters available that will allow them to work with different chargers, but you've got Mercedes rolling out their chargers. You've got Audi you just saw. You've got Tesla has theirs. So the utility industry is going to have to be at the table working with our Public Service Commission and with the Department of Transportation as well, and what these policies look like.
The amount of pressure it puts on not only on the consumers but on the marketplace and also on people like you guys who are an integral part of this, of course, is when the marketplace doesn't do this on its own. And capitalism works in that manner, and the government tries to push this too fast. It happens too fast, and there's problems. Final thoughts here. You got about 10 seconds.
Well, I do believe in markets, and I think we can respond, but we've got to sit down with our regulators and with the industry to say, hey, this is coming. These are things we need to do it, and let's make sure we do it in a way that we're prepared. But we want to tell our customers we're working hard to manage fuel costs, but we want to let you know this is coming, and we have information to help you save money as we deal with these high energy costs.
Haley, always informative.